My name is Steven Martinez. I'm 14 and 0 as a pro. Been boxing for Kenny Weldon since I was 9 years old. I think Galena Park Boxing Academy is the best program in the world. If you want to learn how to box, this program is the best.
My name is Alan Bain. I'm currently ranked number 1 in British Columbia, number 2 in Canada. I've trained at many facilities throughout Canada, and now that I am down in Houston, Texas, I'm training at the Galena Park Boxing Academy with Kenny Weldon. It is the best boxing academy that I ever trained at.
Today, from the heart of Southeast Texas at the Galena Park Boxing Academy, Neutral Corner Media presents You Can Learn to Box with world-renowned teacher and trainer Kenny Weldon. Kenny Weldon has been involved in boxing some 33 years. He fought 227 bouts as an amateur with a record of 216-11. Winning 6 Golden Glove titles, Kenny represented the United States 3 times in international competition. In 1968, Kenny turned professional. As a pro, he had a record of 57-1, boasting the Texas State Featherweight title and the North American Junior Lightweight title. As a pro, Kenny was rated in the world's top 10 for several years. Kenny was considered a protege of the late Bill Gore, who trained such fighters as Willie Pep, Joe Brown, Joey Maxium, and Bob Foster. As a trainer, Kenny fired up the Galena Park Boxing Academy and has had immeasurable success. In its 20-year history, the GPBA has produced 51 state champions, 17 national champions, 3 Pan American medalists, and 2 Olympians. Currently, Kenny's 106-pounder Eric Griffin is the world amateur champion in his weight. Kenny served as coach on several international amateur teams representing the United States and was chosen as one of the 4 coaches for the Olympic box-off. As a professional trainer, Kenny has worked the corner in 19 world title fights. Kenny's techniques have been applied in the corners of such great fighters as Wilfred Scipion, Bubba Buscemi, Termite Watkins, James Pitts, and Mike Phelps. Working for 5 years as technique and balance coach for Lou Duva, Kenny worked his magic with Evander Holyfield, Benny Pazienza, and Mike McCallum. Kenny is currently the chief trainer for the Houston Boxing Association, working such fighters as Orlando Canizales, current IBF World Bantamweight Champion, Todd Foster, 1988 Olympian, Steven Martinez, and Lou Savarese, for a combined record of 87-3. Kenny Weldon is considered by boxing authorities as the best fundamental and technique trainer, as well as the best pad man anywhere in the world today. So, let's go to the Galena Park Boxing Academy and Kenny.
Okay, we're going to move on into showing you how to first get off the ropes. And then I'm going to show you how to keep somebody on the ropes should you get them there. But basically, it goes back to the same thing we was talking about earlier, being eye level and getting your weight where it should be. If I'm on the ropes, as I leave the center of the ring going toward the ropes, I may be in this position with my weight in the center where it's supposed to be. But the closer I get toward the ropes, the more my weight is shifted to my left foot until such time as my right foot touches this bottom rope. Now let me go through that again. Is if I'm backing up to the ropes, I'm in the center of the ring and the guy's got me going backwards, the further I go back, the more my body weight comes forward so that I can feel the bottom rope with my leg. Now when my leg hits that bottom rope, that tells me one of 2 things really. Number 1, I need to either pivot and go, or just go without pivoting, or it tells me that I should get eye level and prepare for his onslaught. Because if I'm not eye level with him, if I'm up here and he gets me up on these ropes and gets my back up against these ropes like this, anything I get hit with, I absorb all of it. Whereas if I got my weight on my left foot as he makes body contact with me, I've got this much give. I'd say it probably a 2 foot of give by keeping my weight here and him hitting me and knocking me into the ropes. Now, as I go to the ropes here, don't forget, I've got all my weight here. That releases this leg, okay? So I can go either way with that leg. But it's real important that as you approach the ropes, that the closer you get to the ropes, the more you get your weight forward, and the more you're into staying eye level or lower. When that foot hits those ropes, you can, like I say, you can either do your pivots or go ahead and make body contact with your weight on your left foot so that you have room to give. Okay? And that is super important. Now, Mike, let's just imagine that I'm taking you to these ropes right here. You and I are eye level. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, now as you go back, you take your right foot. Okay, now is your weight shifting out here? Is your foot, now when your foot touches that, let's see a pivot. Either way. Okay? Or let's go the other way. Pivot the other way. All right? Now then let's brace up for contact. You got your weight on your left foot? Yep. All right, let's go shoulder to shoulder here. Then get rid of me. There you go. You didn't have to make the move backwards. Just make shoulder to shoulder contact and then get rid of me right there. Just take your right foot around. Do it again. Shoulder to shoulder. There you go. And stay eye level. You want to be careful not to get up when you make that pivot. Now get up high. I'll show you why. Here, if he makes a pivot high and I pivot with him and hook, I catch him standing straight up. The idea is that when he pivots, he takes his head out first by going shoulder to shoulder. Then he makes his pivot and stays low so that I can't turn to even see him. I have to look for him when I get ready to try to find him. Okay? Another thing, too, is if I'm going to take him to the ropes, being I am the aggressor now, this is from the other end of the spectrum. This is me taking you to the ropes and me taking you to a corner and wanting to keep you there. Come here. I'm going to take him until his foot hits those ropes, and then I'm going to stop. Okay? I'm not going to chase him right on into the ropes, because if I chase him into the ropes, he can pivot, he can turn me, he can push my head down, he can do whatever he wants to. The instant I may see him make contact on those ropes, I'm chasing him, I'm eye level, and he hits that rope right there, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start feinting, and I'm going to make him commit. I'm going to make him commit before I do anything. I'm the aggressor. I took him to the ropes, so I'm going to feint him and make him go that way, and if he goes that way, I'm going to throw the wide right to the body. If he goes that way, I'm going to shoot the left hook. But then I'm going to follow with a combination. I'm not going to try to take him to the ropes and just rush in and get him. I'm going to make him make a commitment. I'll feint him and make him come out to me. I'll feint him and make him go this way, or I'll feint him and make him go that way, or I'll feint him and make him throw one punch or another. If he throws a straight right hand, I'll slip it here, I'll hit him here, and then I'll go. If he throws a jab at me, I might take it here and go over the top, or I might just slip it here and go on in to where I want to go. But one thing's for sure, when he hits them ropes, I'm just not going to follow him right on in and let him get rid of me or tie me up or whatever else. So the idea is to keep him on the ropes. Now, if he starts to move this way, I'm right here. If he moves the other way, I'm right here. If he tries to go on out that way, I'm here, and I'm going to catch him, boom, boom, and I'm going to knock him up in the corner here with my shoulders or whatever else to keep him there. But one thing I'm not going to do is chase him into the ropes as he gets there. Super important that you're eye level or lower as he goes to those ropes. The instant he hits them ropes, it's super important that you don't overextend yourself to give him the opportunity to get away. So I hope that's understandable, okay? If I want to get out of the ropes and a guy's leaning on me, come here, Mike. Well, let me get over here. You lean on me. If, say, he's just leaning on me and butting me up or whatever else he wants to do, I'll take both hands just like this with boxing gloves on, and I will push him all the way to the canvas if I have to. If he won't go all the way to the canvas, like if he just goes down right there and he's battling it, I'm going to take him and get rid of him right here. I am not going to let him get under here and butt me to death. I'll take his head here. If I can't pull him down, I'll shove him over this way. Or I'll take this hand here and I'll shove him this way. But I am not going to let him pursue underneath me, get me up, and butt me all over my face. That's why you have to practice these things in the ring. You can't just expect them to happen. You say, well, I know how to do it, so when I get in there, I'll do it. No, that's not true. That's not true. What you need to do is take a sparring partner and get in the ring and have your coach stand here and show you the different ways to do things with a headgear and everything on, so that you can practice these things without getting butted, and so that you can go through many repetitions of them. Now let's go through what we've been through so far. Well, number one is as I start going backwards toward the ropes, I have my weight in the center here, but the closer I get to the ropes, the more I get my weight forward. When I hit these ropes, okay, I'm going to do either one of two things. I'm either going to brace and get ready for him and give myself this much room in which to catch his onslaught, or else I'm going to pivot and get away from him. All right? Now, if I can't get away from him and he gets underneath me, come here. I'm going to take him and I'm going to push him all the way to the floor. Or if he's really resisting and I'm pushing him to the floor, I'll take him and spin him into the corner either, or out this way or whatever else to get rid of him. And I'm not one bit past being eye level with him like this. Come here, and taking him and getting rid of him. Say, come on underneath me. Taking and getting rid of him this way. And we're talking about professional boxing here. We're talking about the meat on your table. We're talking about the beans your family eats. So we ain't talking nice. We're talking professionalism and doing the things you have to do in order to win this fight. And if anytime a guy's taking you to the ropes and he's trying to butt you, it don't make sense to me anyway. It might to some pacifist, but it don't make sense to me if somebody's trying to butt me in the face that I'm going to sit there and let them do it and not do anything about it. So basically, that's a lot on infighting. But the most important things you can remember on infighting and the ropes is that these elbows right here are like two handlebars. I mean, it don't take anything. If you've got your head outside the other guy and you take these two fingers right here, you can turn him. I don't care if he weighs 300 pounds. You can turn him because he's got his weight over there. You got your weight to the outside. Same thing on the other side. If you're here, you can take this elbow and do the same thing. And I'll tell you something else. If a guy's bent over forward, Mike, and you got your hand on top of his head, I promise you that anything he hits you with is going to have no leverage because his back is bent. Try to raise up with your back bent. You can't raise up. Now, of course, if he had his back straight, straighten your back and bend your legs, he could raise up. But this guy that's over pursuing you into the ropes is not going to be that way. When you're on these ropes, again, it's super important that you are aware of where those ropes are at all time. When that leg touches those ropes, that tells you where you're at. You can either get away or you can stay there and fight. But either way, you're allowing yourself some room by keeping your weight over that left foot. A lot of your butts during a professional fight or amateur fight still, a lot of your butts come from the fact that people do not know how to get rid of the head. Come here. If me and him are boxing and I throw a jab and he falls straight in on me with his head, he's going to butt me right square in the face. Well, if I'm any kind of smart at all, when I throw that jab and he's falling in on me, I'm going to take my right foot out and pull him down. Same thing as if I throw an inside right here and he slips it inside and tries to come in, I'm going to throw him down. You have to. You ain't going to get away no other way. You're going to run right into his face, with his head, with your face, if you do it any other way. So, again, I hope this ain't complicated to you. I hope you understand it. If you watch this and you say, man, that's confusing, go back over this same tape a few times and get to the point that you understand completely. If there's anything in this thing you don't understand, don't be afraid to back it up and watch it again, because this is the most complex end of boxing. This is advanced techniques in boxing. And what you might call dirty boxing, this is professional boxing. It's not dirty boxing. This is what the real world is all about. So you want to learn as much of this as you can. If you choose to use it, you can. If you don't choose to use it, that's your business. But if you're going to be champion of the world someday, I promise you, you will come to a time that you have to use this. I want to show them how we work a corner at the end of a round, okay? Now, let's say we're in the 5th round of a bout, or let's say we're in an amateur bout even. Well, now let's stick it with the pros right now, because I don't want to have to adjust your headgear and everything when you get in the corner. Let's talk professional boxing now. He's just come back to the corner after the 5th round, all right? So let's see. Let's go over here and sit down. And this is water and Vaseline. Normally, it's in a bucket setting over here to the side of ice. In that bucket, you've got ice, water. You've got an end swell in case he gets swelling to a metal thing that you want to use to wipe out knots or whatever else. But basically what I'm going to show you right now, because everybody has different techniques in the corner, but what I'm going to show you here are the basic techniques that must be done. No matter who your corner man is, these are things that must be done. So first of all, the first thing I would do is reach up and take his mouthpiece out. I would ask him to put his hands in his lap like that and put his legs straight out so as to get circulation in his legs. I wanted to keep his back straight so that his lungs are expanded as far as he can get them expanded. And the very first thing I'm going to say to him is I'm not going to start instructing him as to what to do next. What I'm going to say to him is take 3 good deep breaths in your nose and out your mouth, like such. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to ask my second, who is the cut man. And the cut man, in my case, I don't like to work corners with more than 2 people. The cut man is also the man that's going to give him the water and put the Vaseline on him. Now, Miles, if you'd get up here, if you would. Miles is not a cut man. He's probably never worked in a corner before in his life. But I'm going to use him to demonstrate what I'm talking about. The first thing I'm going to do when he sits down and takes those 3 deep breaths is I'm going to extend his trunks out like this so he can take those breaths. I'm going to reach in and I'm going to get his mouthpiece, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to hand it to the cut man. He's going to wash off the mouthpiece. He's going to set the water down and hand me the mouthpiece back. And he's going to take the Vaseline. And here's what he's going to do. First, he's going to offer it to me to put on him. I have an option. I can either put it on him myself, or I can let him go ahead and put it on. In this particular case, I'll put it on myself for camera's sake so that you can see how we apply it. I take it first and rub it in my hands this way, and this is how I'm going to apply it in the corner. I got a lot of the Vaseline on the palms of my hands. I'm going to take it and go to this eye, down his nose, and across his face. That don't take any time at all. That goes here, 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 and here, and he is Vaselined up, okay? And then I'm going to take the Vaseline and hand it back to Miles. Miles is going to close it up. He's going to hand me the water. I'm going to give the boxer a drink of water, and by this time, he's going to wash it around in his mouth, and Miles is going to hold up the spittoon. He's going to spit it out, and by this time, we're 35 to 40 seconds into the rest period. Now I'm going to instruct. I'm going to get right down in here, and I'm going to be looking him right in the eyes. I'm instructing to him. And the first thing I'll probably do is ask him a question. How you feel? I feel good, I feel bad, or whatever else. And I might ask him, instead of telling him what to do, I might say, well, which way is the guy moving most of the time on you? He's moving to my right. And then I will instruct him as to what to do every time this guy moves to his right. I want him throwing a wide right to the body followed by a left hook. Now you want to watch his jab. He's leaning to his left, so keep throwing that right hand and you'll get to him. At that time, I'll put his mouthpiece back in his mouth. I will get in this position right here. And when the 10-second whistle is ready to blow, I'll lift him up. This is in the early rounds. This is in the 5th round. Later in the rounds, I might stay outside here and wait until the bell rings before I lift him up. But this early in the fight, I'll lift him up at the 10-second warning or so. I'll get out of the ring. I'll take the stool down with me, and Miles will go down in front of me, and we'll be back down there, and he will be ready to go. So now basically what this boils down to, he comes back to the corner, he sits down. Sit down. Puts his hands in his lap, puts his legs out straight. I'm going to reach in and grab his trunks. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to take his mouthpiece out, hand it to Miles. Miles is going to be washing it off. I'm going to give him 3 good deep breaths. I'm going to take the water, and I'm going to give him a drink of water. I hand it back to him. He hands me the mouthpiece back in my hands. Now I'm going to take the Vaseline, and I'm going to apply the Vaseline. And then I'm going to put the mouthpiece back in his mouth and instruct him. He's ready to go. I'm going to lift him up and send him on his way at the 10-second buzzer. Okay? Now that should be fairly easy to follow. What I don't want in this corner is I don't want Miles or any other man in this corner instructing this boxer. I want him to be sure that the first thing he does when he gets back here is get his deep breaths after he gets his hands in his lap. Those deep breaths are more important than what I've got to say. I want him breathing. Okay? And then when I do say something, I want to get his attention. So the best way to get his attention is not just talking to him as to what to do, 300 different things to do. The best way to get his attention is to ask him a question. Because I promise you, when you ask him a question, you're not going to continue until he gives you an answer. Now once he gives you an answer, you've got his attention. That's when you instruct. So that is super important. And And that's how the corner should work. You shouldn't have 15 different people instructing. Some guy's got a big old ice bag up here. Some guy's throwing a towel in his face. Some guy's taking his mouthpiece out and getting his fingers all in his mouth and can't get his mouthpiece out, spilling water all over the canvas. You can't do it. It's got to be organized, and it's got to be so that this guy is super comfortable and can listen to instruction and breathe. Now, when he gets ready to go out to fight, he's going to go out there with something maybe the other guy didn't have. He's going to go out there with a strategy. He knows what the other guy was doing wrong. He and I have just discussed it, and we know what we're going to do to overcome his liabilities. So basically, that's what you're doing in the corner. You're helping the boxer. You're not here to look good. You're here to help the boxer, and if you can't help him, you shouldn't be there. All right? So, Miles, I sure thank you. Miles got his first work in a corner there. I might take him up next time we have a pro show somewhere on TV. We might get him on TV. I appreciate that. So anyway, that's basically it. Now, I've been through many a corner with this guy here. I mean, I guess probably, I don't know how many years, and he is one of the top guys in the corner. He listens as good as anybody in the world. Of course, I have to holler at him some, but not much. If you're having to holler at your guy and scream at your guy, that means your guy is not doing what you want him to do. I don't want to have to holler at nobody unless he's not doing what I want him to do. Now, Mike understands this, and most good fighters understand that the best way to win a fight is by listening in the corner. That's if you're in a 10-round fight, you're in that corner 9 minutes. A lot can be said in 9 minutes. A lot of strategies can change, and a lot of fighters can win and lose right here in this corner. Also, too, before I let him out of the corner here, I want you to understand that you as a coach, or you as the person working this corner, has a lot of influence over what these judges are writing at the end of a round, or prior to the next round, whether or not that you can influence. I can tell you how to influence this judge over here. Now, let's say when this bell has rung for that 5th round, let's say it was a very close round. All right? I'm down here, and the first thing I'm going to say when I come up these steps is I'm going to say, all right, Mike, you won that round. Ain't no doubt about that one. They can't give that one to the other guy. That was your round. That's the way to hustle. Okay? I'm going to make sure this official sitting here 10 foot away from me is definitely going to hear it. I'm saying that on the way up here. All right? And I'm going to get right here, and I'm going to say, okay, you really hurt him. You really hurt him with those body shots. Just keep working that body. As long as you can keep doing what you're doing, you're winning the fight. Do not give this guy a break. You keep doing what you're doing. Okay, now I'm saying this, with finality. I want that official thinking, geez, if he's already starting to write down the other guy's score, he's thinking, well, wait a minute. That was a pretty close round. Maybe I didn't see it right. But see, that gives this official second thoughts. He is going to be thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Before he writes it down, he's going to have that second thought. So that is a great way to influence an official that is sitting at ringside listening to you. Same thing with if he gets a little nick, a little cut, or something like that. You might, and it's bleeding a little bit. When you stop that bleeding, you're going to say, well, I hope this don't influence the officials. I mean, they see a little bit of blood, Mike. You know how it is. I'm talking to him. You know how it is when they see a little bit of blood, man. They think you're losing. It's automatic. These officials, you know how they are. All right? If I'm fighting in the other guy's hometown, I might say something like, well, hey, listen, you're in this other guy's hometown. Look at that official over there. You think he's going to give you this fight? He knows the guy you're fighting. He ain't going to give you nothing. Look at him. He's just waiting to write down your score. He can't hardly wait. Things like that influence these judges. It has to influence them. They're human. And these are things that you as a corner man must know when you bring this guy to this corner. You must be able to reinforce his willingness to win. You have to reinforce the fact that he is winning and that he is in the fight. If he's losing the fight, you have to do something to motivate him to fight harder or whatever else. But at the same time, you want to be telling these officials what you want them to know. And let me tell you something about amateur officials and professional officials. All of them have favorites. Everybody on God's green earth is prejudiced in one way or another. If you see two boxers in the ring, I'll promise you, I will promise you, if you don't know either one of them, you will pick a favorite within 20 seconds of when they come in that ring. There's going to be something about one of them guys that stands out in your mind, and you're going to watch this particular guy. You ain't doing it on purpose. You are doing it because it's human nature to do this. And also, too, if this guy if you're fighting in the other guy's hometown, of course, you're going to not have a fair decision if it's close. You're not going to win a fair decision. Don't try to convince yourself you are. You're not going to do it. Amateur officials, I can look around the ringside and I can tell you which association of all the associations throughout the United States they're from, and I can tell you which boxer they're going to vote on in a close fight. They're going to vote for a fighter in their own association, or they're going to vote on a fighter in another association. If they've got a friend, another referee or a judge from that association, that guy's going to talk to them, and they're going to give the vote. They're going to give their vote that way. I mean, it's an automatic thing. Do not think for 1 second that life is fair and the boxing game is less than that, less than life itself as far as fairness goes. So every advantage you can get in this ring for your boxer, you want it. For instance, say the first round has ended. The referee has not done one thing to get in the way of your boxer or anything else, with the exception of maybe he hollered break and he reached out and pushed your fighter back and the other guy was already back, but he put his hands on your fighter. Call the referee over while he's getting his water and while he's taking his deep breath. Ask the referee, referee, do you have to put your hand on my boxer? I'm talking about in a professional fight. Referee, you keep getting between my boxer and the other guy. Every time you're taking my advantage away. You say that a couple of times in the early rounds, that referee ain't going to get close to your boxer. He's going to be out of it. He's going to be out of his mind trying to stay out of your way. You're going to gain an advantage there. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to do that as a corner man. Okay? If the referee is mistreating your guy, calling your guy for butts, or let's say he's not mistreating him. Let's say your guy is butting and he's butting bad. It's real easy to say, call a referee over and say, yeah, well, my guy's butting, but watch the other guy. Watch the other guy. Stop watching my guy all the time. Watch both guys. Don't just watch my guy. You're watching the same guy all the time. That's why you see my guy butting. Watch the other guy. This ain't no one-way street, referee. Watch both men. So, then it takes the attention off of your fighter. So, anyway, there are several different aspects of boxing that you can bring into play with the officials. And it is your duty, if you're working this boxer's corner, to bring those things into play. Because you want to give him every advantage you can possibly give him. Okay, Mike, let's get up here and let's talk about strategies prior to a fight. Let's say you and I have viewed films of an upcoming opponent. And the one thing that you and I have decided after watching these films is that the things that this guy does over and over again is something that he cannot change during a short period of time in which they've set aside for us to fight, is that every time he throws his jab, he gets a body lean to his left. He's a right-handed fighter, and he gets a body lean to his left. In other words, his momentum is carrying him left each time. When he finishes combinations, he always goes out to the right side. Basically, he moves to his left all time and is able to box good moving to his left. But when he starts moving to his right, he can move to his right, but he can't throw punches moving to his right. So how would you figure the strategy on that? I mean, what would be your plan of action to fight this guy?
Well, my plan would be that anytime he jabbed, I would slip it and hit him with my lag right hand to the body, or anytime we had a combination, I would bump to my right to keep him in front of me and try to get him to go back to his left where he can't throw any punches.
That's right, because if he's got to go back to his left, he can't throw punches that way. And also, too, we're in a square ring. That makes him half a fighter because he can only move one way. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, if he can only move one way and he gets hurt, he's really in deep trouble, right? So the idea is try to make him go the direction that he's not used to going because he can't punch going that way. And it may take 2 to 3 rounds to get him to doing that, and you may have to walk through a lot of adversities in order to get him to do it, but we know what the strategy is, and if we lose the first 2 to 3 rounds, we're not so much worried about that. If we haven't got him to go that way after 5 rounds, it's time to change strategies, ain't it?
Correct.
All right? So what you found out through 5 rounds is that, yeah, he does go that way all the time, but the reason he does is he's got such good body strength that he's able to do it. He's stronger than you, okay? So the next plan of action would be probably, in a case like that, is to give him a lot of direction the other way. For instance, I'd have you moving a lot to your left and making him trying to cut you off and making him come to you more, because he's going to have to be chasing you to his right, which is very hard for him to do. So after the 5th round, you would sit down in the corner and I'd say to you, okay, here, Mike, we've tried this for 5 rounds. We've lost 4 of them. If we don't change now, we're going to lose this fight. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start moving to your left, doing a lot of feints, making him lead. Let's make him move to his right and be aggressive moving to his right and see if he can do it. So that's what I'm talking about in changing strategies in the middle of a fight, as opposed to taking a tape and viewing it and watching it and planning a strategy prior to a fight. Now, we may not wait 5 rounds to do it. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not going to be much of a trainer if I don't know after 5 rounds that the other guy is stronger than my guy, and I'm not going to be able to offset what he's doing through technique. So, I'd probably need to make an adjustment a lot quicker. But the idea is to be able to make the adjustment. If you can't make the adjustment, you're not much of a fighter. All right, now let's say you do make the adjustment and you make it after 3 rounds, okay? Now, you're moving to your left. He's trying to cut you off, okay? But he's getting tired and you're starting to get more aggressive, and the fight is even now. After 6 rounds, we've got an even fight. There's only one problem. You're having to wade into him now because he's getting tired and he's backing up. In the 6th round, he started hitting you with some right uppercuts. Okay? Every time you come in, he starts hitting you with right uppercuts. Okay, so it's one of 2 things you're probably not doing. What are they?
Well, one is I'm probably leaning out over my feet.
Right.
And anytime I do come in, I need to watch for the uppercut and come in with my legs bent.
With your legs bent and ready to throw a reaction punch to a right uppercut, okay?
Sure.
Because if you're leaning, you're not going to be able to react because you're going to fall forward, okay? If you bend your legs like you're talking about, you will be able to react because you're going to have your back straight and your legs bent so that you can make the turn to react, okay? Now we're going to take that right uppercut away from him, so then he's in deep trouble, right? Sure. He's out of gas. Right? He's no longer coming forward. He's starting to back up. Okay? You're being the aggressor now, and we're fighting our fight. We're getting back to the strategy that we originally had before the fight even started. Okay? So then all you got to do is carry out that original strategy, and we've won a fight. Is that right? Okay, see, that is important for the boxer to have that kind of understanding with the trainer prior to the bout. Now, there is no greater tool in the world today than having a tape of your opponent. And today, let's face it, most world-class fighters go through that area of getting these tapes and watching them. And so that's the strategy. That's the way you plan a strategy for a fight. In a 3-round amateur fight, it's very easy strategy. You know what a good strategy is for an amateur fight? If you train your fighters to fight as aggressive counterpunchers, you 90% of the time will win an amateur fight. I will guarantee you. Aggressive counterpunchers, keep the guy in front of you, feint him, make him commit, get off. Feint him, make him commit, and get off. That is a great strategy for most amateur fights. Then the other way to fight an amateur fight is close the distance so quick that the other guy can't get off first, and you get off first every time. That's another way. You got to have a really strong, well-conditioned fighter. Okay. Then, of course, there's the type of boxer that the amateur judges lack. That's up on his toes. That's about 5 inches taller than most of his opponents. That's going to peck him and peck him and peck him and run and tap, tap and run. And if those officials don't let you take him out of his game plan, if you can't go out there and rough him up a little bit, you've got a major problem, because in 3 rounds, you ain't going to catch this guy, and this guy is going to beat you because these little bitty taps he's hitting you with count as much as a hard right hand that knocks him down. So therefore, that is a great disadvantage in amateur boxing. Boxing a guy like this with the judging the way it is as to counting punches rather than effective punches. Of course, this particular tape is going to speak on turning professional, how to turn professional if you're an amateur boxer wanting to turn professional. It's also going to talk on how to go about getting you a promotional agreement and a management contract and that sort of thing. It's not an easy business to get into, and here at the Galena Park Boxing Academy, we will not turn anybody professional unless they have certain qualities about them that sets them aside from other boxers. I don't believe in turning people professional for the sake of them saying they're a professional boxer. I don't believe in putting together a stable of boxers that's just a meat wagon for other promoters and managers. I'm not in this business to train anyone that does not have the ability or the potential to become a world champion. If you don't have the potential to be a world champion, it wouldn't do you any good to come to a person like me. And I really feel that professional boxing is reserved for very few. I don't recommend hardly anyone to turn professional unless they are of unbelievable quality and potential. So that's the first thing to understand. I think probably when a person or when a kid decides to turn professional, the first thing he needs to do, the very first thing, is to find somebody willing to manage him that he can trust. Now that is saying a mouthful right there. Someone you can trust, because you can't just find someone you can trust in everyday life like today. You got to find someone that you can trust to hold $1 million for you and don't have to worry about them taking any of it. Or you have to have someone you can trust that thinks more of you as a person than he does as a boxer, and thinks more of your future as a person than he does as a boxer. This type of management is hard to find. Secondly, your management must be very knowledgeable about the sport of boxing. There are so many sharks in the water out there that even though he may feel as though he's knowledgeable and he hasn't been around much, he's going to find out real quick that he's not nearly as knowledgeable as he thought he was. I mean, to be a promoter nowadays, you have to practically be an attorney. I mean, you have to really know the law in how to deal with legalities involved in promoting boxing, and how to sign fighters and get the most for the least amount of money you pay. So I think probably the best thing I could tell you today, if you were a boxer or if you were a trainer ready to turn your boxer professional, is that there are 3 things that you must have when you turn professional. One is the boxer must have a weekly income. Now, this weekly income is an income derived from his training each day and his preparing for professional boxing matches. I would say the average income for a professional boxer being paid by the manager is around $250 to $300 a week. I'd say that if you've got a weekly salary of $250 to $300 a week so that you can get by and you don't have a big family to support or anything, if it's just you, that would be what you would need to begin with. Secondly, you would need a guaranteed fixed amount of fights over a 3-year period of time, like so many the first year in 4 and 6 round fights, and so many the second year in 8 and 10 round fights, and so many the third year in 10, hopefully 12 round fights. You should have a guaranteed weekly income during that period of time, and you should have a guaranteed fixed sum of money as a minimum guarantee per year on your fights, aside from your weekly income. If you don't have that, then you shouldn't turn professional. Also, if you have no credibility, if you've never won anything but a little local Golden Gloves title, or maybe you haven't even won a Golden Gloves title, maybe you just want to turn professional because you think it's the thing to do and you've got these high hopes that you're going to get rich fighting professional. Well, let me tell you something. It don't happen. It does not happen. 1 in a million make it that way. When you turn professional, you need an extensive amateur background. And if not an extensive amateur background, you have to have the makings of a world-class pro to begin with. And the only way you're going to be able to find out is if you do have that, is if you're around knowledgeable boxing people. I mean very knowledgeable boxing people that can look at you and say, yes, you know, you have the perfect build and style and heart and everything you need to become a world-class pro as opposed to an amateur. You need that. If you don't have that, then you shouldn't even be considering turning professional. If you have some credibility, like say you've won a state Golden Gloves title or maybe a state ABF championship, and there's people in the state that knows you, but you've never been outside the state, again, it comes back to how much potential you really have. Go to somebody that knows what they're doing and find out how much potential you have. Don't think you know how much potential you have, because you don't. If you're a trainer and you think your boxer has great potential, don't just go by your opinion. Go out and ask other people's opinions. Ask them what they think. Because when you turn your boxer professional, you know, I mean, you're taking a big chance with this kid's career and life as a whole. He may mess around in boxing for 3 or 4 years and get his brains beat around and go nowhere, because you've made a judgment that he's going to be a good professional fighter, and he has a lot of confidence in you. So you can't just jump into something like this. National credibility is a different thing. Let's say you've won a couple of national titles, you've been down the block, so to speak, in the amateurs, you've been around, you're 19, 20 years old, you just couldn't get over the hump to win the big major tournament, you lost bad decisions in the finals or the semifinals, and you've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, that is the guy that is more likely going to make a good pro, because he didn't have all the all the past help that these other guys have had that are winning these amateur titles. You have to have a lot of luck, and you have to have a lot of politics being played to win national championships in the amateurs. So, you know, if you're one of these guys that just couldn't quite get over the hump, you're my kind of guy, because you're the kind of guy that is more likely to become a world-class pro. The guys that have gotten there because of their politics and winning bad decisions on national levels, those guys may get all the exposure, but they are not necessarily the best boxer out there to watch. So basically what I'm saying to you is that if you're an amateur boxer getting ready to turn professional, make sure you got credibility. If you don't have any credibility to turn professional, you better have some financing behind you that can guarantee you a weekly income, that can guarantee you how many fights per year you're going to fight, that is going to be able to guarantee you that should you win a title of any kind, that it's going to make you more money. You're going to have someone that can take you from the amateur level through the pros to the world championship as your management and your promotional team. If you don't have that, don't even get started. So I would say that the best thing you can do if you're just a little local guy that wants to turn pro is think twice about it and go out and find you somebody that's got enough hope in you that they think you can make it, and get them to put up the money to do it. If not, if you can't get the money put up, don't do it, because it's not worth it. It is not worth it. You have to be protected, and you have to be moved by a professional organization or you will become an opponent. And an opponent in this business is a hunk of meat, and that's not what you want to become. Management. Management is something serious, serious, serious. It's serious business. When you discuss a management contract with somebody, you do not go to a boxing gym and sit around in that type of atmosphere and discuss what you're going to do with your life. You go to a business office, you go to a place that you can think, you go to a place that you can think about your career and your future rather than what's going on at the time. If you're in a type of environment where you're working out and everything, and you've just finished working out, or you're tired, or you're all pumped up about signing a professional contract, and you're around all these professional fighters and all this stuff, you will 99% of the time make a major mistake, especially with a manager that's been in the business a long time. He will turn you every which way but loose. Go to an office, take somebody with you, like an attorney, and somebody that really cares about your future. Do not go talk to management alone. You always take somebody with you. Probably the thing that you look for most when you start to do a contract with a so-called manager is whether or not that manager has promotional contacts with one of 3 or 4 major promoters in the world today. It don't matter if he's doing a little weekly professional boxing show or monthly professional boxing show. If he's not doing television shows, if he's not a good friend and doing work with people like Don King, Lou Duva, Bob Arams, and people like that, you don't need a manager like that. You don't need a manager that has no contacts. Contacts are everything in this business. So you need to hook up with a manager that, now this is assuming now that you're credible enough to do so, but you need to hook up with a manager that can get you on TV. If he cannot get you on TV, he is not worth anything to you. So therefore, that's the first thing you look for. The next thing you look for is if a manager wants to sign a contract with you, and somewhere in that contract, watch for these guys. These guys are the ones that will get you every time. Watch for this little clause in the contract that says, I'll give you this, I'll give you this, I'll guarantee this, I'll guarantee that. And at the end it'll say, all guarantees are subject to promotional agreement. Oh, what a terrible clause. That is a terrible clause. If that management contract has that and you sign it, you are dead, because you just took all the responsibility off of the manager. And if he signs a promotional contract for you with a major promoter and you're giving him the right to do it by signing that contract, if he signs a major contract with a promoter, that promoter can guarantee you anything he wants. He can guarantee you a penny a fight, and if your manager signs it, that is what your guarantee becomes on your management contract, because it is subject to the promotional contract. So do a straight management contract. Don't even, in your management contract, do not even mention promoters. Do a straight management contract. You want your manager to guarantee you a weekly income over the period of, say, 3 years. The first year you are guaranteed X amount of dollars a week for 52 weeks a year. You are guaranteed X amount of fights over a 12-month period of time, preferably 8 to 10 fights over the first 12 months. You are guaranteed that of those 8 to 10 fights, how much money you are going to be paid throughout those fights. Like if you're fighting 4-round fights and you're guaranteed $500, you're fighting 6-round fights, you're guaranteed $1,000. But whatever those guarantees might be, you want your weekly income, plus you want a guaranteed income from your bouts. Because don't forget that when you go fight this fight, you're thinking, well, hey man, I'm getting $500, and plus I'm getting my weekly income. Well, you ain't getting $500. You're getting 2/3 of $500, and your manager's getting 1/3 of it. So what you want to do is make sure that your 2/3 of that contract, along with your weekly income, is enough money that you can make a living over the period of a year. And then the following year, there should be an increase on your salary, and there should be an increase on your annual income, because you're moving up from 4 to 6 rounders to 8 and 10 rounders. And in the third year, in the contract, there should be clauses saying that should you win any kind of a title, you have an incentive. This is the incentive part of your contract. Should you win any type of a title, your weekly income and your annual income is increased by X amount of dollars. These are things that you have to have so that you can take this 3-year contract you've got with this manager and set it over here on the side and go take care of your business and train. All right? So I think probably that in dealing with your manager is the most important thing you can do, because if your manager says, well, look, I can't do that, well, then your manager don't know what he's doing, because your manager will have no contacts with major promoters that he can go to and say, well, look, you need to subsidize this for me. I've got the management contract, but if you want part of this kid, you're going to help subsidize his weekly income, you're going to help subsidize his annual income, and you're going to guarantee my boxer these fights. Now, if your manager can't do that, then you don't have much of a manager, or else you don't have much credibility as a boxer. So that's a good way to gauge just how much credibility you've got. You go talk to a manager that knows his business and tell him what you want, and if that manager says, well, you ain't worth that and I'm not going to do it, then that ought to tell you something. You might try 2 or 3 different people, but that ought to tell you something, that you're not ready to turn professional. If they're not ready to guarantee you anything, if they're not ready to give you a weekly income, if they're not ready to guarantee you X amount of fights a year for a period of 3 years, if they're not guaranteeing you a fixed income over the period of 3 years. So, that's the first step. Get you a manager that is willing to give you those guarantees, and then you can take the next step. And then the next step is signing a promotional agreement. Let's say your manager has went and talked to the promoter, and the promoter says, yeah, we'd like to have this kid and everything else, and we will guarantee the amounts of money, and we will subsidize the amounts of money that you have promised the kid. He's telling the manager this. All right. So the manager is going to say, okay, what do I have to give you in return? So then the promoter, right off the bat, is usually going to say, well, I want 10% of the kid. I want a 3-year contract with you and the kid. And should the kid win any title, I want 2 years option after that. Okay, well, that sounds real good, except for one thing. If you, as a boxer, get your weekly income and you get your annual income, and then you win a title, okay, don't forget, unless that manager has made a deal with that promoter to guarantee you more weekly income and more annual income, you're going to be in the top 10 in the world, and you're going to be fighting for the same money you were fighting for in the beginning. So you have got to make sure that your manager understands that in signing a promotional agreement, that when you sign that promotional agreement, that you have a minimum guarantee which is more than your minimal guarantee that you already have. You have got to also make sure that those clauses that are going to give them options at the end of 3 years dictates much more money over the next 2 years or 3 years or however long their options are. Much more money. So I hope this isn't getting too complicated for you, but that is what management is about, and that's what promoters are about. A promoter, number one, is if he's got 4 lightweights and you're a lightweight, and this guy's got 4 lightweights and they're all very busy and fighting on TV and everything all the time, and he's bringing you up, you're not going to have much of a chance of reaching the top if he's got 4 other lightweights. What you'd like to do is get with a promoter that don't have any lightweights. Maybe he's got middleweights, heavyweights, light heavyweights, and everything else, but he don't have any lightweights. Then, you're more subject to get more exposure, and you're also subject not to play second fiddle to anybody, and that's important. Okay, so basically what we're talking about here is having complete confidence in your management and knowing that your management has the kind of credentials it's going to take to get in contact with major promoters and do business with major promoters without cutting your throat. Because a manager will cut your throat in a minute, and he has every opportunity to do so when he is negotiating fights for you. If you're in the, let's say you're going to fight a televised bout in New York. Let's say your management agreement guarantees you that if you fight 10 rounds, your minimum guarantee for a televised bout is $20,000. That management goes and makes an agreement with a promoter that you're going to get $60,000 for the TV fight. But the manager only owes you $20,000 because that's what he's guaranteed in your management agreement. Okay? Now, do you think that this guy is going to come give you 2/3 of $60,000? Of course not. He's going to give you your 2/3 of $20,000. And he'll do it 99% of the time. So that's why you have to be able to trust your manager. If that manager does a $60,000 agreement, he should come to you and say, okay, we've got you $60,000, and man, we are going to do this thing, and we're going to win this fight, and this is what we get if we win. This is what happens if we lose. So that takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust. So, like I say, first, you have to have the credibility. Second, you have to have management you can trust. Thirdly, you have to know what to watch for in management agreements and how much influence promotional agreements with that manager have on what you're actually guaranteed. And last but not least, you have to watch the promoter, because that promoter, to him, you are a number. You are one of thousands of potential fighters he can get out there, and he looks at your life, at you as you having a lifespan of 5 years in this sport, and he wants to get the best 5 years you've got. And when it's time to get rid of you and bring it, let's say you're on the 5th year of your contract and you're in line for a world title shot, and he's just signed the guy you're going to fight, who is 21 years old and is rated number 2 in the world, and your promoter has just signed this guy to a promotional contract too, and you're fighting him for the championship of the world. He's only got 1 year left on your contract. Who do you think he wants to win that fight? I mean, use your head, That's what you are to a promoter. You are a number. He's going to look at the other guy and say, this guy is going to win. I will have had him 1 year, and I've got 4 years left with him. You win the fight. I've got this 1 year, and buddy, me and you are over, and you're going to take all the money and run. So therefore, I'm going to make sure that if this fight's close, you are not going to win it. I mean, he's saying that to you in his mind. So, you have to watch for all of this. There's many, many factors involved. So, in doing management and promotional contracts, these things you must know. Now, for you trainers out there, boy, let me tell you about trainers. Oh, boy, I've done it all. I've been promoter, manager, trainer, swept floors. I do it all. Run my gym. I mean, hey, I've done every single bit of it, including the worst part, being the fighter, being the product. Man, nobody has it as bad as the product. Oh, you are so expendable. You're almost as expendable as a fighter as you trainers are. Almost. That ought to tell you something, trainer. You are the most expendable human being on the face of God's green earth. So when you go up there and you take this young kid and you train him from the time he's 10 years old until the time he turns professional, and you turn him pro, and boy, you say, I don't need a contract. What do I need with a contract? I brought you up from a kid. I brought this kid up. Boy, I'm telling you. Well, let me tell you something. When this kid is 10-0 with 10 knockouts, and he has the promoter come up to him and say, well, son, I tell you what, I want you to sign this $1 million contract with me, and we're going to put you on TV. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. There's only one thing. I don't want this stupid old man with you that you got in your corner. We're going on to bigger and better things, and he's holding you up. And I'm going to have you to relocate if you're going to fight for me. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to give you if you're going to fight for me. I'm going to buy your wife a new car. I'm going to buy you a new house. I'm going to give you $5,000 a week. I'm going to let you train whichever way you want to, because I know what you are. You don't need that old man. You get rid of him. Well, let me tell you something. Trainer, you're gone. Believe me, you are gone. You can say adios. Don't think for a second that this guy is going to take you with him. And if he does, it will be a miracle. Because if he does, he's going to take you with him, and you are going to have a terrible dislike for that promoter, and before a year is up, you're going to be gone anyway, because that promoter is the guy that is feeding your boxer the money. You are feeding him friendship, and money will overrule the friendship 99% of the time, and you're going to eventually be gone anyway. Unless, when this boxer goes to sign a management contract, you be put in the management contract. Put your name in the management contract for the same term in which the guy is going to manage your fighter. You are his trainer. You have final say-so as to who he is going to fight, no matter what. If they say he's going to fight a midget over in Singapore, you have final approval. If they say he's going to fight King Kong in Africa, you have final approval. Nobody is going to fight nobody unless you have final approval. You must have that put in your contract, because the manager nor the promoter is going to do right by your boxer. Only you know your boxer's capabilities. Secondly, is you make sure that if that manager signs a promotional agreement with a promoter guaranteeing this fighter, that you are also on the promotional agreement. Because let me tell you what they do then. They say, in the contract with the manager, this is what I'm saying, all terms of this contract are subject to the promotional agreement. So if you have it with the manager, when you go to when the promoter signs with the manager, that manager can get rid of you in a split second, because the promotional contract is stronger than the management contract. So you want to be on both contracts. If you're not on it, don't tell these people to jump up. That your fighter ain't turning pro with them, you'll go find somebody else. And your fighter at that time will go along with you 99% of the time, because he thinks you're just taking care of him, which you are, but you're also taking care of yourself. And the fighter's going to go along with it, because at that time he knows how he got to where he's at. You got him there. So, that is super important that you understand that. And you trainers and you boxers out there, beware. Beware of managers and promoters. They are looking strictly at the numbers. And you, buddy, are a number. So this is something that I hope helps you. And we're gonna end with this. I want you to consider what I'm telling you. And next time you get a boxer ready to turn pro, and you think he's ready to turn pro, consider all these factors I've talked to you about today. Okay? Not only can you learn to box, you can learn to manage, you can learn to train, and you can learn to promote. But, hey, all it takes is a little effort on your part and a little bit of watching how to do it. And you're watching the right person and the right people right now to do that. Adios, and I sure thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's segment of You Can Learn to Box. I think I need to point out to you, though, that these particular techniques take many repetitions. You've heard the old saying, repetition makes for perfection. Well, that is exactly right. If you do these things over and over again, and you roll your tape back and go through it 2 or 3 times so that you understand it completely and do many repetitions of it, you will become much better. In order to teach boxing, this is for sure something that you need to do over and over again. So, I hope you learned something from today's segment, and I hope you learned, most importantly, that you can learn to box.